Okay, so you need a new smartphone and you're not quite skint, but you haven't exactly got a huge wad of cash stuffed under your mattress or anything. And these days living costs are all like, excuse me, landlord, how much for a pint of beer? No, thank you very much. I'm just going to go to the local wine cellar and buy me a box of Buckfast and drink it on the pavement outside. If you can stretch to a budget of £300, then the good news is you don't need to spend crazy cash to get a reliable smartphone. That sort of money can buy you a blower that can deal with the latest games and make your Netflix shenanigans look all pretty, with the added bonus of great battery life and maybe a design that doesn't look like your dog threw up all over it. Now, at this sort of price, you can even get a phone with a pretty decent camera on it these days. I've reviewed bugger loads of smartphones that cost around the £300 mark and under, so here's my pick of the best right now. And for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now first up, Xiaomi's very smart Redmi Note 11 Pro 5G recently hit the UK for an asking price that seems to hover either just above or just below £300. It's a small looking slab, although it's also a proper whopper at almost 6.7 inches. Good news for movie fans, as that spacious 120Hz AMOLED screen is a bit of a stunner, with sharp contrast and poppy colours. And the audio is just as good because you've got a respectable stereo speaker setup on here, plus a headphone jack with high-res audio certification. Sploosh. Of course, how lovey-dovey you'll get with the Redmi Note 11 Pro does depend somewhat on how much you get on with MiUI, Xiaomi's very own smartphone launcher. Personally, I quite like it these days, especially as Xiaomi is embracing a more sort of stock Android vibe while also chucking in a veritable buffet of bonus features. You've got the likes of that all-encompassing control center and a proper one-handed mode and the ability to stream YouTube audio while the screen is hibernating. It's just a shame then that Xiaomi is kind of chuffing slow when it comes to actually updating its smartphones, both on the OS and the security side of things. You've actually got the older Android 11 out of the box here on the Redmi Note 11 Pro, so hopefully it'll be getting Android 12 soon. The Snapdragon 695 chipset can handle even quite demanding gaming shenanigans like Genshin Impact, with 5G support chucked in as well. And the battery life is bloody good too. In fact, the only real downside is the 108 megapixel primary camera, which is generally fine, but it is limited in low light and for home movie capture. Check out that review for all you need to know, and if you can spare a little bit more cash as well, you may want to consider the Pro Plus model. You'll often find this for around the sort of £330-ish mark in Xiaomi's various sales, and it offers a couple of key upgrades, including a bit of Dimensity 920 performance, nice and beefy, and also 120 watt super nippy fast charging. And now let's turn our attention to Poco, who used to be part of the Xiaomi Fold and indeed still seems to have some close ties. One of their latest smartphones is the Poco X4 Pro, which typically costs 299 quid, but can be found for a lot less during sales. This budget blower is powered by a Snapdragon 695 chipset, which can happily handle some light gaming. And games do look ruddy lovely on that big old 6.7-inch AMOLED display. You've got a stereo speaker setup, you've got a 108 megapixel camera slapped on the back. And if you're starting to get a niggling sense of deja vu here, that's because the Poco X4 Pro is essentially just a rebranded Xiaomi Redmi Note 11 Pro. I mean, the two are practically clones outside of that very different design. So unless you feel particularly strongly one way or another about those looks, I'd say just go with whichever is cheaper. And if you find you've got a little less cash to spunk on your new smartphone, well, definitely do not sleep on the older but still pretty ruddy good Poco X3 Pro. You can grab that bad boy right now direct from Poco for just over 200 quid, and it is definitely worth that. This can handle everything you need thanks to the Snapdragon 860 SoC, even a tasty bit of Genshin Impact if you keep the detail levels on low to medium settings. Like the Redmi Note 11 Pro, you have a 6.67-inch Full HD Plus display, although this time it is IPS rather than OLED tech. But the visuals are still fine for watching shows on the go or kicking back with a flick, while the adaptive refresh rate maxes out at 120Hz. The Poco X3 Pro also boasts a decent stereo speaker setup. You've got a headphone jack down below, plus excellent reliable Bluetooth streaming support. You've got NFC for your contactless payments. You've got an excellent edge-mounted fingerprint sensor, which is super responsive and reliable. You've basically got everything you need. I rather like the 48 megapixel camera sensor too, which captures quite sharp pictures of even the more squirmy of subjects, as well as respectable 4K footage. In fact, beyond the slightly garish design, there's really not much to dislike about the Poco X3 Pro. It is proper lush. And of course, Poco smartphones, as they were previously part of the Xiaomi family, they do still use that MiUI launcher with all of its foibles, so just be aware. And these days you'll also find the excellent Poco F3 for well under the £300 price point, and it still stands up pretty well thanks to the slick performance and good battery life. I've done a full long-term review of that wee beastie, so definitely go have a long hard look at that one if you're suitably intrigued. Now, another one of my favourite budget blowers at this price point, and one which also just launched in 2022, is the OnePlus Nord CE2 5G. Don't be fooled by the simple and not particularly attractive plastic finish. Besides the lack of micro SD memory card support on this thing, there's pretty much bugger all to complain about. That 6.43-inch AMOLED screen is bright, sharp and poppy with HDR10+ support and a 90Hz refresh rate for smooth sailing. And no worries on the audio front either, because like the Redmi, you've got a headphone jack and dependable Bluetooth streaming. This time the launcher of choice is Oxygen OS, and it's squatting very happily on top of Android 12, hooray, the latest version of Android OS. And Oxygen OS adds in a whole bunch of extra bonus features similar to MiUI, the likes of the very chill out Zen modes and some really strong customization options. And even better, OnePlus has you covered for the reasonably long haul as well. You got 2 guaranteed Android OS updates and also 3 years of security updates chucked in there. The Nord CE 5G is powered by MediaTek's Dimensity 900 chipset, and this proves absolutely fine for your everyday shenanigans and can even handle a decent bit of gaming on the side as well. Yeah, you got 5G support for getting online, a 4500 mAh battery which serves up dependable all-day use, plus 65-watt SuperVoo charging support, so you can juice it all up again in the morning in about half an hour. As for that 64 megapixel primary camera sensor slapped there on the back end of the OnePlus Nord CE2, well, this does an absolutely fine job again of your everyday snaps, and it can actually shoot at 4K resolution for your video as well. So overall, highly respectable stuff and highly recommended by myself for this price point. Also, for 20 quid less, you could get yourself the fresher Nord CE2 Lite model, but by saving yourself just 2 crisp tenors, you will have to sacrifice that OLED screen and the super fast charging, although the battery life has actually improved a wee bit if that is a priority. Personally though, I'd just say stick with the regular Nord CE2 because it's a better all-round experience. Now, Motorola is definitely another budget smartphone manufacturer well worth keeping an eye on, and at this sort of price point, one of their best efforts is the Moto Edge 20 Lite, which you can snaffle for just a penny under 300 quid. This sports a MediaTek Dimensity 720 chipset, which means smooth performance whatever you're up to, while the Moto can easily survive a lengthy day with its ruddy massive 5000 mAh battery. You've got another pocket-filling 6.7-inch display, but it is an OLED screen with HDR10+ support. Ideal for all your Netflix and your Disney Plus and such forth, plus you've also got a headphone jack and you've got microSD memory card support for expanding the 128 gigs of built-in storage. As for the camera tech, that main sensor is a 108 megapixel beast that uses pixel binning to produce bright, natural looking snaps. It's definitely one of the better offerings in this budget phone roundup, so definitely if you can't get enough of snapping your food, your pets, your offspring, whatever, well, seriously consider it. And also for a price just under 300 quid, Motorola has just launched the fresh new Moto G82. It's available right now on the Motorola UK website, and it boasts similar specs to that Edge smartphone as well, including another sizable OLED display, this time with 120Hz refresh support. You've got another massive 5000 mAh battery. You've got your expandable storage. Performance this time though comes courtesy of the Snapdragon 695, which I've already banged on about in this video. You've got a 50 megapixel rear camera with built-in optical image stabilization, so hopefully good looking everyday pics. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to fully review the Moto G82 at the time I shot this video, but hopefully that'll be coming soon. Now, another dependable supplier of brilliant budget blowers is Realme, and if you've got around £300 to splash on your next smartphone, well, definitely check out the fresh new Realme 9. This 4G model right here is an enjoyable all-round experience. It's powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 680 platform, which can handle everyday shenanigans, no worries. You might just need to be a little bit patient at times. And you can even get a light bit of gaming on the go when you can't be f***ed with work anymore. Games, movies, and whatever else you get stuck into all look rather bloody marvellous on that 90Hz Super AMOLED display, while battery life is as good as any other phones in this lineup. And while the 108 megapixel main camera does falter in more ambient light, with focus field being the primary culprit, you do get some good looking snaps when those conditions aren't too testing. Just to confuse matters a wee bit, Realme has also launched a 5G model of the Realme 9, which is also available on the Realme UK website. It costs the same as the 4G model and it runs the Snapdragon 695 instead, which has that built-in 5G modem. And that sounds like a bit of a no-brainer, right? Why would you get the 4G model when the 5G model costs the same? But Realme has downgraded some of the specs as well in that 5G version. So for instance, they ripped out that gorgeous AMOLED panel from the 4G model and replaced it with a bog standard IPS display. And then you've got the Realme 9 Pro, which sports similar specs to the Realme 9 5G, again with an IPS panel, but also they've upgraded the camera tech to something that's more capable in lesser light. Now in 2022, even Samsung fans will find some Galaxy handsets for this £300 price point, which still boast a similar One UI experience to those wallet-empty and S22 flagships. I gotta say, these budget-friendly Galaxy phones are generally a bit of a mixed bag. You don't get quite as sexy hardware as you do from some rivals like Xiaomi and Poco, for instance. But one of the best you can bag yourself right now for under £300 is the Galaxy A32 5G. First impressions on amazing, admittedly, thanks to the cheap looking plasticky design and that simple 6.5-inch IPS display. Visuals aren't as impressive compared with many rivals here, not least because this is a 720p panel rather than a full-on Full HD display, so you do lose out on some of those finer details. Still, you do get a bugger load of Samsung features chucked in there as usual, including those excellent Knox security tools to help keep your privates out of the eyes of naughty criminal types, as some fantastic customization options as well. Performance comes courtesy of MediaTek's Dimensity 720 platform, which does occasionally stumble, but it can generally cope with most things you chuck at it, including some Call of Duty mobile action if you want to merrily murder some strangers online. Now, camera tech does unfortunately struggle a wee bit in less than stellar Lite, and overall I've got to say it is less impressive than many of its rivals, which I've already mentioned in this best budget phones roundup. But if you are a Samsung devotee, you don't have quite enough cash to stretch up to those mega expensive S-series smartphones, well, you might get a kick out of it. And finally, a shout out for the IQOO Neo 6, which only just launched as I was shooting this video. This pretty shiny wee smartphone is a gaming beast at this budget price, courtesy of the Snapdragon 870 chipset and a generous helping of 12 gigs of RAM, so you can smash your way through any Android title out there, no worries. Likewise, the battery life is good enough for all-day play with 80-watt charging support if you do actually need a top-up. The IQOO camera setup is pretty good for shooting simple snaps, packing in Samsung's GW1P sensor, while rounding off those specs is a slick AMOLED screen with HDR10+ support and a stereo speaker setup. Overall, the IQOO Neo 6 offers a lot and has only a few flaws blemishing its otherwise spotless record, such as the fact that it's missing microSD memory card support and a headphone jack. My full-on unboxing video is live right now, and for pretty much all the smartphones I've mentioned in this roundup, you will find an unboxing and in many cases an in-depth review as well. So that right there is my pick of the very best budget-friendly smartphones you can grab yourself right now for a price of £300 or under here in the UK. And have I missed out your own personal favourite budget blow? Well, that's probably because, oh my god, all of the phones in 2022, so many, just like, stop, please. Like seriously, in 2022 so far, I've pulled almost 50 frickin' smartphones out of a box and had a bit of a play, and it's only bloody June. But anyway, that's the video. Please do let me know your own thoughts down in the comments below, your own favourite budget blow, whatever you've been rocking in your pants, your purse, whatever. And do poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell, all the other YouTube shiz, and have yourselves a bloody wonderful rest of the week. Cheers, everybody.